This video is going out to you if you're in a toxic relationship, if you keep going back to the guy and the guy is no good for you, and you're perplexed not only by your own behavior, but you are also frustrating your friends, your family, and the people that care about you. Be very careful you do not become isolated, because isolation is one of the key facts that fuels abusive relationships. Either whether the person, the guy that you're with, isolates you or you do it to yourself, isolation is a massive issue. I posted a video last week about why it's so difficult to leave toxic relationships, and last night I got a comment stating that the video was a load of rubbish. And so this morning I asked the individual what do they think? And they quoted that self-respect would be the way forward. I answered back by saying, where do you think self-respect comes from? And I didn't find the answer particularly helpful, but I've taken that as an opportunity to make this video, because I'll answer. Self-respect is something that comes often from childhood, how we were treated, how we were loved as kids. And if we didn't get the love that we deserved, if we didn't get safe, consistent love, then that has an adverse impact on our well-being and our self-esteem. And we see that most acutely in adulthood and more prominently in our intimate relationships. And so it's all good and well making judgments about people's behavior. However, if you are someone who's in that situation, those judgments can be very damning. They can lead you to not communicate about the situation that you're in, and they can isolate you. And as I said before, isolation is key to an abusive relationship. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very clear with people. Like, if you're in a toxic relationship, you can't talk to your friends or anybody else, get help. Get help, because often what's fueling our behavior in this relationship is in our unconscious, and we can't always access that by ourselves. At times we need support, professional support, maybe with someone like me, a psychotherapist, or maybe you might be someone who's able to write creatively. You might be able to express yourself in the written form, because that's also another way of getting it out of us. There's other ways as well, in terms of, if you have safe people around you who you can talk to without feeling judged, who can walk with you even when you are self-sabotaging yourself. Not everybody is going to be able to do that to you, but people will judge and have their opinions of you. And my hope is that you do not isolate yourself, because that is where we are more likely to do the most damage to ourselves, because we know at worst those judgments lead us into brutal self-harm, and at worst can lead to somebody wanting to take their own life. Just this week I bumped into somebody who I knew when I used to work at IKEA, and I worked there in the 90s, and I remember telling her about my issues, my relationship challenges, and she used to judge me. She used to cuss me. She'd be like, Keeley, get yourself out of that. And it was only this week that I was able to say to her, you know what, I really appreciated what she said to me. However, my self-esteem at that particular point in my life was like, I didn't respect myself. I didn't have self-respect. So I kept going back into that relationship. However, I thanked her when I met her recently for her advice, for her words, but I wasn't able to receive that. And I think that's the beautiful thing about meeting people from my past, is it reminds me of how far I've come, and reminds me of where I was when I was at my lowest point in life. And so if you are battling, if you are struggling to make sense of a nonsensical situation where you might be being abused, used, mistreated, be it financially, emotionally, then I encourage you to get help. Reach out. You can do so. Like, I have a book called Why Love Hurts and Why Self-Love is the Key. go to the Key for Change website. You can download that, you can buy that, go to Amazon, or can even consider going to the Feel Loved workshop, where we're going to be exploring matters like this. Additionally, you can schedule a fact-finding courtesy call with myself so we can ascertain what are the main issues that you're going through. But my encouragement to you is, don't go through it alone, and watch out for people who judge you. Because people who judge, I find very interesting. It's almost like they put themselves up on some pedestal, as if we don't all have our own challenges in life. Now, I'm blessed with an empathic heart, and so my capacity to be understanding of a whole raft of situation is a real gift that I have. And I know for the many clients that I've supported over the years, that you are often empathic beings yourself who have a very sensitive heart. And actually, when we don't know how to protect that, that does leave us vulnerable to abusive relationships, because we can also justify, understand, and explain away nonsense behavior. And so one of the greatest tips that I found beneficial is having boundaries. And that is fundamental to looking after myself, and being able to look after myself is the reason why I have built Key for Change, because I reprioritized my energy. I stopped focusing on trying to change a man who had no ambition of changing, and I changed myself, and I built a vision called Key for Change, which is where I am at today. So if you are in a situation which is toxic, which is not good for you, but again, you still keep going back, reach out, ask for help, because trust me, you are not alone. And as for the people that judge you, well, they will. Be careful who you take your vulnerability to. That's my message for today. Now, do take care of you, because if you don't, who will? And if you need help, inbox your girl Key.